Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. And there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by the Adam Meakin, Neil, 10th Man, Father of a Stolen Child, Arwin, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Hello, hello, good afternoon.
Good morning.
Yo, yo, yo.
Hello, hello, and Sleeping Warrior.
Yay.
Good to have you.
Last but by no means least.
Of course. Can I have a hello from anyone in Discord just to make sure it's all working?
Tumbleweeds.
Hello.
Hello,
Welcome to
Stegoli.
school.
What's up, Nathan?
Excellent. Excellent. Everything functioning as normal. Any evidence of a physical, geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curvature?
No.
Discord? Anybody been claiming
Come on,
tangent
Discord.
points like they did yesterday?
Come on, Discord.
Dip angles to give you R values? Anybody at all? Don't be shy.
Nope. Nobody claims the horizon's Earth curve, Nathan.
The guy yesterday claimed the horizon was Earth curve and tried to take a dip angle measurement from that tangent point, only to then later claim it was projected into a different position that was non-geometric. Amazing how cognitive dissonance works. Any evidence of the R value the guy was trying to get from the physical horizon we've debunked with the black swan? R value, Earth radius.
Only on a piece of paper through a calculation.
Yeah, calculate it into existence. No, there is no evidence of the R value.
Any newcomers in Discord? Feel free.
If there was, at 1.22 miles at a 1 foot observer height, that would be a physical obstruction all the time.
Yes, that's right. At 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, there'd be a geometric limitation by way of the physical obstruction they call Earth curve. It's in their mathematics and debunked by the black swan.
Right. The proof of R is in terrestrial refraction, which makes the exact specific globe Earth look perfectly like a flat plane.
Almost
That's the
right.
proof of R.
Almost correct. Not the proof of R is in terrestrial refraction, just R is in terrestrial refraction.
Yeah.
You can't use R to refract the horizon to a non-geometric, non-tangent point if you can't get R from the horizon. It's the Arwinian paradox.
Right, but if you still conclude that it has to be on a sphere that you just can't really geometrically measure because it always looks like a flat plane because the horizon is not in the geometric horizon location, then isn't it just okay to presuppose R?
So what I'm
If,
saying
you know,
is just
reality
because...
makes it so difficult for you to establish it.
Just because you can't see through the back of the wardrobe to Narnia doesn't mean we shouldn't worry about what's behind the wardrobe in Narnia, right? We can't see it, we can't experience it, but we should still worry about what's behind that wardrobe. My bad, where the geometric horizon that doesn't exist is. Sorry, I get those two confused often, Narnia and Globe Earth.
Yeah.
I think the 7/6 R factor is arbitrarily been chosen. It doesn't apply in some fixed value to the real world.
Any more on the R value or Earth curvature?
No.
Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
No.
No.
Bob proved it.
How did Bob prove it?
Gyroscope.
No, he didn't prove that. He didn't manipulate the presumed cause to prove that it was the rotation of the Earth. He just measured something and doesn't really know what he's measuring. It did seem to be consistent with the model, but it's correlative only. So on that one, we defend Bob because he didn't actually prove anything.
But hold on, he's been peer reviewed, and the vast majority agrees that he did prove that.
Oh, well, he's proved it then.
Well, it is actually quite a useful tool. So what's useful is you can take the section from Netflix where Bob makes it explicitly clear that if he picks up a drift, it would be because Earth's turning beneath the gyroscope. The 15 degrees an hour drift they claim Earth will induce in the gyro because it's spinning fixed in one reference frame as Earth turns beneath it. Now, he's made that claim because that's the globe Earth claim. And then Netflix have taken that and then taken his result exactly in line with that prediction. And he's gone forth, that would be Bob Nodell, to say, no, what we actually proved was the cause of it is ether rotation. So when you've got a pseudoscience experiment that doesn't prove anything, you can attribute whatever just so story you like to it. So if you're a glober, you can take the gyro and say, well, it'll drift because Earth turns beneath it. And if you're Bob, you can say, well, no, the cause is ether rotation. So in other words, none of them have established the cause after doing what they call an experiment with a gyro. Now, the thing about science is you establish the cause as something called an independent variable. So in both instances, the gyro for ether rotation and the gyro for globe turn, in both instances, you haven't got an independent variable that can be varied by you, the researcher. So you're not varying that which you assume causes the effect, you're making up a story as the cause of the effect. And what is the effect? The effect's a gyroscope, not some naturally occurring phenomena we need to worry about, like drift on an Earth that's spinning. There's no phenomena to study. There's a man-made device. That's what you've got. And the story for the cause of the anomaly in the man-made device can change at will. At one time it can be Earth turning beneath the man-made device, and another time it can be ether rotation. Because if you haven't got a valid scientific experiment, you can make up the cause as you go along. In an actual experiment, the cause is established in the hypothesis, and you'll be varying it to see if it causes it. And the thing you're going to be causing is something that you're studying that occurred in nature, not a bloody gyroscope. So no, Bob did not prove Earth turns. He also did not prove ether rotation. He didn't have an experiment. There's nothing to see here. The phenomena are non-phenomena.
And he didn't manipulate the presumed cause to establish the cause and effect relationship. So it could be anything that he's measuring. And he is measuring something, but it's a little bit elusive, isn't it? Let's be honest. He doesn't show it. They just assume it. They demand that he proved it. The reality is he measures something, but what is it?
It's a conjured phenomenon within a man-made device, and that's the only place it seems to be detectable.
That's correct, Darwin. He's detected drift in a fiber optic or fog gyro. That's what he's detected. Okay? That's not a naturally occurring phenomena that I need to concern myself with.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
You make a couple of assumptions.
Morning, guys.
It's over there. Definitely
Morning,
over
chocolate.
there.
We can make a couple of assumptions, Nathan, and calculate it, but without those assumptions, you can't get the distance to the sun if you assume that it's physical.
Bummer. So many assertions for 93 million mile sun, based on an R value that we've covered already being assumed, and Kepler's third law of interplanetary motion being applied with a Christian Huygens assumption that Venus has the same R value. Ever wonder why they claim Venus is Earth's twin? Well, that's because somebody just assumed it was the same size as Earth with the same radius value. spherical, and in orbit. All of those assumptions were then made so they could apply the mathematics to give them scalars and distances. And that's how we get our distance to the sun. It's true because they made it up themselves.
Shout
Well,
out to Jimmy.
I could say that the reason they say it's 93 million miles is because they need light to come in parallel rays. And since light doesn't come in parallel rays, obvious for any eyeball to see, it's coming in divergent, then number one, the need for it to be that far away is, you can throw that out the window because light is coming in divergent. And so it's much closer, whatever it is in this, I know it's a light in the sky, but it's much closer to 93 million miles if the goal is to make its light come in parallel, which it doesn't.
I remember hearing Jaron talking about the Tycho Brahe, I don't know if exasperation is the right term to use for his objections raised to the lights in the sky, currently called stars, that would have to be massive based on what they claimed the distances were. Now ascribed to Tycho Brahe, absolutely ginormous stars, vastly bigger than our own sun. You know, in other words, his objection became part of the model, which I've always found quite amusing, especially when we then go on to find out about Newtonian gravity and his objections to exactly that. And you're like, oh, right, better not object too hard or you might have your name ascribed to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they love to do that.
Can we have Meekin presented, Nathan? I want to see what he's going to talk about here.
I was going to ask about gravity. That was my segue with Newton, but ruin it completely, and we'll have to dream up a new segue into that housekeeping question. Go ahead, Adam.
It was just to follow up. I was watching Brandon's last night, and obviously I've been aware of this altitude thing with regards to the gyroscope and the differential effects. I was chatting with Mike Kavanagh at the Amsterdam convention all about it. So I've known about it for quite a while. What I found interesting yesterday was this graph that popped up. I know they took it at Pikes Peak, different altitudes, and that's where they showed a correlation. What I found concerning was this graph, that there appears to be this level of correlation between rotation rate and temperature. And these may be skewed in the fact that the temperature is just relevant to the altitude, but there does appear to be a very nice fit with this, which would imply that there's a very strong correlation between rotation rate and the temperature, just looking at this, which to me would indicate a faulty machine. Because we can't have varying temperatures affecting rotation rate, because that would imply that logically that temperature affects rotation rate. Now, we can't have local rotation, can we?
Hang on. There's a couple of things that would directly affect this perception of temperature, because there's a couple of things that go hand in hand with temperature. Pressure would be directly correlative as well, because as you go up in elevation, the pressure drops. Humidity drops as you go up in elevation. So although this looks pretty and says temperature indicates that there's a correlation, if you were to plot it based on pressure and also on humidity as well, you'd probably get something similar, not identical, but similar, but raises the point of what are we actually measuring and can we prove it?
Yeah, my question is actually stop. Hello. What rotation and what temperature? Can you be a bit more specific about what we're talking about?
Exactly. No, so this is my point. I'm not talking about measuring anything. I'm saying you've got sets of results here, and they're worrying in terms of any inference you could draw from them, because you're showing a correlation here between whatever you want to infer it is, but the output of the machine, the rotation rate output statement, and temperature. That to me is concerning, unless you can uncorrelate them by saying that the temperature is only an effect of altitude and demonstrate that pressure doesn't affect it, then like I said, to me here, this says the machine is too variable by temperature to give any accuracy of rotation rate.
I'm really sorry to do this to you, Adam. I know you're trying to pull it apart, but I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what the machine is. I don't know what a rotation rate is. I don't know the temperature of what. The temperature of the bathtub and the rotation rate of the water going down it. Is that what we're looking at?
No, the temperature of the environment at which the measurements were taken. And that's why I'm saying that's a concern. That really, if we were going to have a correlation, we would want a straight line, them all together, so that it demonstrated that the machine isn't affected by temperature. This says to me the machine's affected by temperature. Otherwise, the only inference is you have local rotation based on your temperature. So, i.e., in South America, it's 30 degrees. So the rotation rate is, the hotter it is, the slower the rotation rate.
Okay, thank you.
That's what this is saying.
I still need clarity to an audience member. Now, it's going to seem difficult because you're going to think, you know what I'm talking about. What machine? What's the machine? What's it doing? I know this isn't your claim, by the way, Adam. I'm sorry I'm putting you on the spot to
No, it's fine.
steel man it. I can't remember what the term is, but yeah, go. If you can explain to the audience, what are you talking about?
So we're talking about the laser gyro and its output, which I think you mentioned earlier can be assumed to be Earth rotating, or in this case, it's being inferred that it's measuring ether. It's an etherometer in a sense, I suppose, is what you're claiming the machine is.
So in other words, you're reiterating my point, and I'm glad you do, because it's the main point. Without causing offence to your correlation that I still am not clear on, and I will get you to clarify again, even though you've said it several times. In terms of the cause, it depends on what your religious belief is, on what you want to ascribe as the cause. One day you can say the deviations caused by ether rotation. That's your cause of this man-made gyro drifting, the fibre optic gyro, and its 15 degrees drift that's claimed. And another day, if you're a globe believer, you can say it's because Earth's turning underneath to cause this man-made fibre optic gyro to have a 15 degrees deviation. So in other words, if I'm let's just think of something completely absurd, I'm a unicorn believer, then I can say that it's the magic unicorns that are the cause of the 15 degrees an hour drift. So in other words, I can ascribe whatever cause I like.
I think the point I'd take issue with is the word cause. This is not cause. This is inductive reasoning. This is correlation. There is no control. This is not an experiment. These are readings that are taken, and they're plotting output of the machine against various other readings that they're taken. But we've got no direct experiment. There's no cause and effect relationship being stated here. It's just something that's been noticed correlation wise,
and the correlation is with the output of a fiber optic gyroscope. So where you would normally have a naturally occurring phenomena that you're trying to induce or cause with your presumed cause of that effect that you're studying, in this case that line has got output of man-made device on it rather than phenomena being studied.
Yeah,
exactly.
Right.
But my issue isn't that, but it's that this data doesn't appear to support in of itself. To me, it's disruptive to any claim. Whatever you're going to claim that rotation, that output of the machine is, to me, this suggests that the machine is heavily affected by temperature. So it's not a good graph, is the point I'm making. But yesterday it was being discussed that this was a good correlation. It was showing things, but I said my only inference I could say from that is unless you can rule out the temperature and show that it's not the temperature, even though there's that correlation there, then you're suggesting a faulty machine. Because if these machines are subject to that much deviation over what's that, 10 degrees, not virtually, then they're next to useless, aren't they, if their output is varied so much by temperature.
Okay, I just want to say this to both globe side and flat earth side that want to utilize fiber optic gyros or mechanical gyros or anything else in this regard, right? We here are interested in the physical and natural world. Now, what is being done as far as I can ascertain, is beta testing technology. About as far removed from science as you can get. That's what's being done. This is technology. And it might be very useful technology for certain purposes. And it might be faulty. But I don't care. Because it's not proving or disproving any natural phenomena that I'm experiencing. So I don't care. And now, Adam's saying, further to that, the output of the man-made device and some of the correlations between temperature in this example are being used to make further claims, presumably causal in nature, about the output of a man-made device. This is absurd.
There's a reason why, Nathan. Bob Nodell is trying to cover his tracks. And you got Don Gio, who is into this, sending a gyro up really high to check the temperature if it would make a difference. I don't understand why. It's a gyro.
If it's affected by
Again,
to see if it's affected by electromagnetic field.
So is that what we're studying then? Electromagnetic fields?
That's what I'm looking at. That's what I'm looking at, yes.
Okay. So the natural phenomena being studied is electromagnetic fields then?
Yep.
But who cares?
To what end?
Exactly.
To what end?
What? Because it's very interesting and I like to learn.
I agree. But how is it any more or less interesting than a flat earther suddenly going deep into explosions for the sake of argument? How is it any different?
No, it shocks are interesting.
I'm doing it for
to me.
myself,
Am I
really.
going to bring him into the debate?
Hold on, Neil. Go ahead, Don Gio. If you're just interested, that's fine too. I'm interested too. I think
Yeah.
it's fascinating.
Yeah, it is. I'm doing it for myself, not for the sake of argument. Just going a different route. You know what I mean? I already observe it to be flat, so that argument's case closed with that. But I'm on to something else now.
I agree. There's so much more open possibilities in the sky. It's the thing I know the least about, and I can totally understand why people would want to investigate it. The only problem or issue that we're trying to highlight here, Don, is that there's a lot of assumptions that are made that are very, very similar to the types of assumptions that leave us on a spinning ball flying through a sky vacuum in this pursuit that our own side are taking currently with these mechanical gyros and fiber optic gyros, ring laser gyros, deviations, and then claim causes that are being ascribed, correlations in terms of the deviation of the output of a man-made device, then being ascribed to other causal relationships. This is a road that I don't like, and I know why my fellow panel members also don't like it. That's why it's being discussed. I don't know if you appreciate that. I know you're just interested, as am I. I just don't want you to think I'm having a jab at you for that. I'm not. Go ahead, Don.
No, it's all right, Nathan. It's fine. It's all fine. I'm doing it to learn. Maybe I could discover something that we didn't look at, and I can bring it to the community. Yeah,
Don,
pretty much is what I'm doing.
the same.
If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. You know, if I'm right, then I find something right and I share it.
I don't know if I'm right or wrong. I've been interested in this for a long time. The effect and this affecting a machine, it's interesting, and it's worth more look. I just think sometimes you're already heading down. You've already decided what it is, and we this isn't an etherometer. Yet we've decided that's what it is, and that's the bit that I think is you're already heading down the wrong path. There's nothing wrong with this investigation, but we're already have assigned a cause to it. So we're not investigating. We're just, what are we doing? We're
Seeking
trying to
confirmation.
reaffirm our belief, aren't we?
I'll tell you what's being done. Confirmation bias is the term. So you've got an idea of what's occurring, and then you're seeking out confirmation for it. Now, when it doesn't sit in line with whatever you're trying to confirm, you'll rejig the cause in this instance from it'll disprove Earth's turning beneath because it won't drift at 15 degrees an hour to it is drifting at 15 degrees an hour. That's caused by ether rotation. You know, that kind of ascribing of cause is done through confirmation bias.
That's why I asked Bob, did he know anything about a F71 Tesla meter, and if he could use one of those, if he does it again, he could test the electromagnetic fields and just see if there's any forces acting upon it with that.
Listen, it's not science, but the value in analyzing this data is taking what they consider a proof for their globe Earth and axial rotation and absolutely debunking it, falsifying it. Strengthening the flat Earth argument by falsifying one of their what they consider proof.
Okay. But their claim proof in this regard is Coriolis deviation, observable from the ground as things drift as you watch them. Well, that effect is an effect induced by the gyro and claimed by globe Earth. So the drift at 15 degrees is Coriolis deviation in the gyro. Well, if the gyro drifts, I have spun this to my advantage, because you can now nail down a glober on what they actually claim. And when it comes to Coriolis effect, they want to demand that we accept that that's not actually their claim when it's disproven. Now, their claim is Coriolis effect. That is things drifting as you turn beneath them, as claimed by the gyro. So once you've got it firmly established that that is what they are claiming, Earth turning beneath the gyro, and that Coriolis is you observing it as you turn beneath, then you can tie them to things that don't drift as we're claimed to turn beneath them. And they can't move away from their actual claim because they're locked into it by the gyroscope. So, Mr. Globe believing Fundy, you believe the gyro, which is spinning and not moving, it's only apparent deflection. Gyros don't drift. They just spin. And it seems to drift. It moves in its cage, if you will, because it's claimed Earth's turning beneath it. That's what the cage is attached to. But the gyro itself demonstrates this apparent deflection because it's claimed Earth turned beneath it. So you've got it established, and then you can say that would shorten flight times. Your need for Coriolis effect, which is only for them observable from the ground as you turn beneath stuff, would induce the effect that would shorten flight times. So you've got to have something like the pendulum or the gyro to tie them to their claim in this instance, because with Coriolis they want to slip away from their claim that things should drift from the ground as we turn beneath them, which is what Coriolis is, because it doesn't happen. So you need some anchor to tie the globe believer to their actual claim, and their actual claim is Coriolis. Coriolis is observable from a roundabout, like it would be observable from a spinning Earth if it was spinning. And from a roundabout, you can turn 180 degrees on the roundabout and see the plane seem to turn 180 degrees above you on a roundabout. Now, the plane doesn't have to account for that, doesn't have to worry about it. It's not actually happening. It's just you turning beneath it on a roundabout. And likewise, you'd be turning beneath stuff on a turning Earth. But it doesn't happen. So like I say, the gyro's useful. Tie the glober to their claim that Earth turns beneath stuff. And then point out how it doesn't happen. And when they say no, the plane can account for that. And you're like, no. Me looking at an aeroplane from a roundabout, the pilot doesn't get a radio command that I'm watching him from a roundabout. And likewise, if the ground beneath him is turning, he doesn't have to concern himself for it other than the fact that it would shorten his bloody flight time if we're seeing him seem to curve as we turn beneath him to give us Coriolis. So I need that gyro. I need them to actually make their claim with it rather than tell us that, no, the gyro moves in a figure of 8 or some complete horseshit to get away from their actual claim when we disprove it. But there we go. That's my take on the gyro. I'd rather tie them to what they actually claim. As soon as what they actually claim was established by Netflix, Bob just changed the claim. Well, no, the cause isn't Earth turning beneath the gyro to prove 15 degrees an hour deviation caused by Earth turning beneath it. It's actually the ether causing the drift. It's like, oh, way to change the presumed cause of the effect on the fly. Well, that's because they haven't got a naturally occurring effect. That's not a naturally occurring phenomena. It's got an ascribed cause of Earth turn that seems to be easy to change whenever you like, to whatever you like. I've turned it into unicorns that cause that drift. I don't need to verify them. I can just claim them. Oh, what's that globe believer? You say it's Earth turning beneath it until I point out that shortens flight times. Then suddenly it's a bit awkward to have it as Earth turning beneath the gyro. You know what I mean? But that's not science. It's not been established. The cause of the effect hasn't been established in a hypothesis. The effect doesn't exist in the first instance. It's a complete sham. And because it's a complete sham, you can change it and mould it to whatever you like. Ether rotation instead of Earth turn? No problem! I just changed the wording of this sentence, and now my cause is ether rotation. Oh, what a bloody sham. If you can't recognise that, then more fool you.
Well said, honestly. There's no question that like the true non sequitur is the fact that they're claiming these gyroscopes pick up this rotation, and then on the other hand, they'll say that like when you're in a hot air balloon or whatever, that the Earth isn't turning under you. Like you can only they're trying to have their cake and eat it too, and it's good to use the gyroscope thing to call them out on that non sequitur.
Exactly, or the pendulum. They say the pendulum's drifting. Pendulums don't drift. It's an apparent drift because it's claimed the Earth turns beneath the swinging pendulum to make it seem to drift because Earth's turning beneath it. Well, that seeming to drift is the same as the plane in the air on a roundabout seeming to turn around because you're watching it while you're spinning on a roundabout. That's Coriolis effect. Well, that effect has a very real implication if it actually occurred. So that's why they deny it. No, Earth and atmosphere spin together. That's like me saying, as I look at the plane from a roundabout, it doesn't turn around as I turn beneath it, because there's a giant whirlwind from me all the way up to the aeroplane that manages to turn it 180 degrees in the air as I watch it. It's absolutely preposterous. But if you don't know what Coriolis is, you don't realise it's the plane turning around on a roundabout because you're turning underneath it. It's not actually turning around, but it looks like it is. That's what they claim happens on Earth. Not actual deflection as you watch things not attached to a spinning Earth, like footballs or snipers' bullets, as they're quite happy to claim, until you say, well, that would shorten flight times. And then they start detailing the projectile. Well, the projectile's got engines. It's like, okay, it's back to my roundabout example. So because I look at a plane seeming to turn around, it's now not going to turn around as I watch it from a roundabout because it's got engines. What joke! But that's what you have told to you if you don't understand the argument. Or, more likely, you haven't tied them to their claim. They claim Earth turns beneath stuff like I can turn beneath an aeroplane on a roundabout. Well, if Earth's turning beneath stuff, flights from, say, Charlotte, North Carolina to LA would only take about an hour and a half. Because from the ground, you're looking up at that plane and going, oh, look at that. Looks like it's curving. And the guy next to you says, yeah, that's just us turning beneath it. It's not really curving. He knows where he's going. He's going in a straight line. It just looks that way from our point of view because we're turning beneath it. But then, of course, because you're seeing that effect, that's Coriolis, your flight time is then only an hour and a half in that direction. Travelling west would be massively shortened. Now, as soon as you say that, oh, well, it's got engines. It's accounting for it. The Earth and the air move together. The roundabout and the plane move together. That's not Coriolis. That makes no sense. But that'll be the defence if you don't tie them to what they actually claim, Earth turning beneath at 15 degrees an hour, or you don't understand the argument at all and don't understand what Coriolis is. You observing drift because you're turning beneath things. You observing a plane in the air turn around 180 degrees because you're on a kid's playground roundabout. It's not actually turning around, but it looks like it.
What a headache now.
You hate Coriolis, don't you?
Yeah.
So did I.
I'm glad Nathan deals with it.
I'll shout out my video. I did a video that shouted out Carl Jobst. Excellent speedrunning videos. I love them. Hopefully he'll be the first YouTuber to get to 1 billion subscribers. I wish him every luck. He's on that road. Anyway, he's made videos about this guy called Looper who hated the tightrope style walls in Doom 2. And in speedruns, they're a nightmare because they're a couple of pixels wide. You're trying to do them as fast as possible, and it's a tightrope. Obviously, you've got to go slow. So you've got to go slow to go fast. That's frustrating for a speedrunner. And this particular speedrunner, Looper, would describe his frustrations with them and how he hated them. Same applies with Coriolis. It's a tightrope. It's very easy to fall off into the weeds of describing how reference frames work. And you end up getting blue in the face declaring that you're Miley effing Cyrus because you're so frustrated with the tightrope that you've just fallen off and you're into the weeds of arguing about something that isn't not actual deflection as you turn beneath things. But when you get good at it, suddenly it's a breeze. You can immediately recognise when someone doesn't understand Coriolis, is now going against their own claim. Earth and atmosphere travelling together, well then no drift, no Coriolis effect. Claim debunked, but that takes lots and lots and lots of practice. Now, I am in no doubt that Anthony's better at arguing about gravity than I am. He knows more about Einsteinian and Newtonian gravity than me and most of the people on the panel combined. Because he studied it and studied it and studied it and studied it. And I haven't. So for him, you come up with something that will catch me out undoubtedly in one day on gravity, and Anthony will be there right by my side going, well, actually, no, in Newtonian mechanics it works this way, and in Einsteinian it works that way. So they're completely non-compatible for X, Y, and Z reasons that Anthony could reel off in a minute. So you like that argument, but I know about your frustrations. I witnessed you having them with Arwen. So you can't flag that you love gravity all the time. That's just simply not true either.
No, but now that you said the G word,
that.
yeah. Now you have said the G word. Can we move on?
Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
No.
Shit, this was
That wasn't the
cleaning whole
progression
time.
point.
Hold
You
on,
said
go-
before Miki gave his presentation that you wanted to move on to gravity, but now there's a segue, and now we finished the segue, and we're not moving on to gravity.
Oh, we can still come back to gravity. Percent, whatever your name is. Feel free, go ahead.
I was saying, like, I didn't realize we're still on house cleaning this whole time.
House cleaning? Housekeeping.
No, we don't do house
Housekeeping,
cleaning in
whatever,
here.
Yeah, the housekeeping was done prior to 2020. Did say cleaning that
What's
time,
up,
didn't I?
percentage? How you been, brother?
How you doing, Elijah?
Nope, it's chocolate.
Oh, my bad.
He said,
I
hey,
confused you guys before,
You're
too.
batting a
I
thousand
always
today.
confused you, too.
No, that's all right. I always get confused with Elijah.
that's very racist.
Shout out to Neil's exhaust.
Not all Chinese men
Well-
sound the same.
Just on that, I was with no Elijah, but I think it was Elijah. I was listening to QEs the other night, and I wondered if we could add something to the glossary. I'm not sure who he was talking to, but the person had a degree, and I think at the end of it, Elijah said, "You just wiped your ass with your degree," which I thought was a lovely.
I need to give a shout out to Miles the Liar Davis. He turned up on Quantum Erasers show the other night, dressed up in a new attire, and I think it was called. Was it the geologist or the
The
scientist?
biologist.
Biology.
Biologist. Yeah. Shout out to Miles the Liar Davis.
It was Miles,
Yeah,
wasn't
Miles.
it?
Miles,
I
the
recognize him.
biologist, Davis.
I recognized that I heard that voice before, but I had no idea it was Miles. And I was on that panel.
Adam was in the chat, right? And he arrived late, and I'd been in there going, "It's Miles Davis, it's Miles Davis." And then Adam comes in and goes, sort of tentatively, "Is that Miles Davis?" in the chat. I'm like, "Yeah, of course it is."
It's great that we can identify him.
Yeah, they all hope that we forget things to the same level as they do. Unfortunately, we don't. So we actually completely remember these little details, like how things work, what really happened, what their voices are like, what their character is like, even if it is years ago.
That's a good point.
I'm
Adam.
actually mad. I didn't catch that out because I heard him and I was just like, this guy's been around for a while. Based on what he's
Right.
saying, I know he's been in this discussion for a while, and I've heard his voice, but I had no idea it was Miles.
You know,
Yeah, but you
when I
you
was
could
listening-
feel where he was at the way he was dealing with the words. Probably, I have this all the time. You size up somebody, like what language are they using? What mistakes have they not figured out yet, and then bypass them? You can hear it in the way they describe things.
It's also complacency. So where we have to be uber specific about everything we say, we have to watch every word, we have to be really careful about what we claim. All of those things leave us hypersensitive and very focused, very frosty. They are totally complacent because they're in the majority and any little mistake doesn't really matter. They'll get backed regardless. No matter, it's to the point where they can descend into total nonsense speak. I remember a conversation between Brenda and, was it Bob? I forget who. But they descended into
Yeah.
talking about eating pencils or something. Complete cross purposes, still agreeing
Bob the
with each other.
fallacy guy, yep.
Just
How did it know to be food?
yeah, just complete cross purposes with each other. No semblance of understanding or coherence in the conversation. But they're still nodding along, agreeing with each other. And that says it all. You know, they can be completely complacent.
Not only that, they were saying how smart they were.
Shoes are not phenomenal, Brenda.
Well, that's how they all nod along with. At best, you've disproved the radius. Such things. They're just yeah, because it's coming out of your mouth. That's
Yeah, yeah.
priority over what you're actually saying.
Yeah, until you put quotes around it and say it verbatim. And they say, that's misquoting me, that's a straw man, that's not right. It's like, yeah, so coming out of a glober's mouth, it'll be nods and cheers, but the exact same words from our lips, well, no. And that just sums
Cherry
it up,
picking
doesn't
and
it?
quote mining, isn't it? If we quote them in any way, it's cherry picking or quote mining.
It happens on the show. They'll say something, and then literally 30 seconds later, you'll repeat back to them, either paraphrasing slightly or sometimes verbatim their exact words, and they'll deny their own words 30 seconds after saying them, because hearing them back from us makes them recoil.
Like this morning's pre-show with Rumpus saying it's not detectable through our senses, and then later saying it is detectable.
It's not detectable. Then later,
What
we've
they
got
actually
experiments to
mean
prove
to
it's
say is-
detectable.
Oh, sorry. You were saying? Sorry, I broke the moment. But what
No,
they
Rumpus.
actually, what they
No,
mean to say is, oh great. What they mean to say is, no, I didn't let those words come out of your mouth, because then it means something different as when I say it. So when you quote me back, that's wrong.
Yeah, when I say it, everyone on the globe side hears the tone and timbre of my voice and cheers. Yet when you say it, everybody boos and says it was wrong and I shouldn't have said it. It doesn't make any sense. Don't repeat it back verbatim ever again, because I didn't even say it.
Exactly.
That was a moment where, like, everyone's on the road and they're all approaching the roundabout, and everybody starts giving way to somebody, and nobody ends up going. That was just what's happened.
The Christian deadlock on a British roundabout, that's not something that's so prevalent. It is a bit more now in the States. They do have a few roundabouts, but they're here, yeah, exactly. Everyone's looking in one direction, giving way. Then suddenly everything can grind to a halt because everyone's too polite.
Those are all-way stop signs. I just go right through them because everybody's standing there. I just go right through.
American driving attitudes are very different to British ones, but let's not get into that on a live show. So, any evidence you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
No, Hillbilly Blue Balls demonstrated that you need the pipe to get the pressure, and then even though he thinks it's not a container because it doesn't have a lid, he's still got a container for the pipe for the gas pressure. So even every experiment's ever been shown has always got a container. So no, there always has to be one.
I don't know. You got guys saying that, certain things have, they're affecting gas molecules.
You've got that
You know?
tone, Neil. You've got that tone like you had on the pre-show when you're like, I don't know, I've spent some time at Brandon's and now I think about being a Glober again. You've got that kind of that tone.
Listen, incoherent nonsense has an effect on gases. Come on, Don Gio, tell him. You were saying it the other night.
Right, you've got to actually get the claim correct if you're going to have any semblance of being believable in your devil's advocate role here, Neil. So you've got to say incoherent dielectric acceleration, obviously, give it a bit of disdain as well in the tone, obviously has an effect on gases. And then maybe even chuck in an ad hom. You idiot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. It does. On a very short distance, it does. Very short distance.
Okay, when I looked it up, it said that you had to freaking cool it to 150 billionth of Kelvin. Whatever the hell that means. I'm just a floor guy.
What? I'm just wondering, like, if incoherent dielectric acceleration can, electrostatics, as it were, all that stuff, if it can repel gas because of a physical surface that is high on tension and then kind of causes this differential and a push. So how is
my
that?
God,
How is that pulling the gas away?
Not. That's what
from-
gas does.
Don't
From
say
twenty
anything about
miles
it. You
Hold on.
started this.
That's what gas
from
does by
20
itself.
miles away?
Oh, that's what. Stop. That's what gas does all by itself. It's got these things called elastic collisions. So it'll bounce off a barrier and it'll bounce off other gas particles, effectively repelling them. In other words, the problem is they're not attracting one another. They're repelling each other, bouncing off each other. Yeah, they're doing the complete opposite of what is required by gravity, or an assertion that we've got a downward bias. Things attracted in the direction of the ground. Well, gas doesn't do that. It expands in all direction and effectively repels itself because it bounces off itself. Unlike when it goes through a phase change, when it's almost like gravity. The masses attract one another, they even bond together. But that's phase change. It's definitely not gravity.
I hadn't even picked up on that. You're right. It repels and it's supposed to attract. That's I hadn't even picked up on that yet. I was just stuck up on, okay, so how is it going to influence that gas over 20 kilometers at least away? How is that going to gradually pull it in? 'Cause
Yeah.
no,
How can you say it's being attracted to the Earth when it's literally bouncing off itself? It's not bouncing. Oh, sorry, it's not a mass attracting to itself. So far from attracting to the ground, it'll just get to it and then immediately repel away from it. Well, no, bounce off. But that's just the vernacular we use for this particular circumstance. Repel, bounce off, elastic collisions. We're just describing the same thing. But it's certainly not attracting, right?
I think I was talking about magnetism with the cooling the gases to 150 billionth of Kelvin.
oh, you mean the gases in liquid form? Yeah.
Yeah.
Magnetics can influence gases when they're actually liquid.
Yeah,
So-
but not in its natural state. We don't see it happening right now in the air.
Yeah, but that's because it's gases and it's not a liquid. That was the whole point.
Listen, you need a container to have the pressure. You need
Correct.
walls of a container, right?
Yeah.
I don't understand why everybody's trying to move away from that. I'm telling you, you're inventing your own freaking space, whoever you are.
Yeah, ether. This all come from
What
electric
is that?
universe stuff, right? And they've got a lot of heliocentrism in it. Now they have a different description for the sky vacuum, and they call it ether. Well, you know, that's a massive conflict of interest. If you're following Ken Wheeler or Electric Universe dudes or dudettes, and they've got a heliocentric mindset, because you're going to quickly find that there's going to be problems. And that's what we highlight. Now, do I care that there's a crossover between flat earthers and Electric Universe? Not really. But like you say, well, when there's a space assertion with a different description for it from Electric Universe, and we're disproving space as a whole, because you need a container for gas to form pressure for us to breathe here, then both go by the wayside, regardless if you're a flat earther fighting for one with ether and whether or not you're a globe earther fighting for space with the other. They're both debunked. We've got gas pressure here.
Man, you really struck me with the insight that electrostatics only pushes air away. That also explains like how indeed a turbine could be made by literally pushing the gas in one direction, not pulling it. So
Like a fan.
if the incoherent dielectric acceleration believers could basically demonstrate how electrostatics could literally pull in gas in some effect without pushing it in the opposite direction, right? That would be interesting.
So what you're saying is, you talk about high standards. So please defy gas law to prove your claim. Nice challenge there, Arwin.
Well, our argument is them claiming there's a universal downward bias.
Nah, gas that just absolutely flies in the face of that.
That's the only problem I have with all of this. It really is. Like, I don't care. Like, go forth and be merry to discover all these great things. But is there a claim that comes behind this? That gas somehow goes down? That or things have a downward bias? That's my problem with this. Because, again, walking around with a helium balloon is trying to go up. So is there an upward bias for my helium balloon? And floaty bias for things that float? Because if not, maybe you should stop saying downward bias. Thanks.
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
No, just pictures.
Oh no.
E waves and S waves.
Is lava more dense than the Earth crust?
I don't think we're talking about lava here, Arwin.
It's molten iron lava.
Liquid hot magma.
Right. But I think that magma, even like on the surface, which is not the molten iron core, like it is less dense. The heat of it and the liquid state makes it kind of expand. That's why it typically goes up in the volcano, right? Pressure, and it's less dense than the rock. So how is that? I wonder, like technically the core would have to be like really freaking heavy. So heavy that the rest of the Earth crust is floating on top of it. I'm taking
Yeah,
this.
there's no
way-
evidence. There is no evidence of the Molten Iron core.
Yeah, but maybe the molten iron core is the thing for which there is the least evidence of all.
Wait, hold
Correct.
on. Maybe if we give Paul Voigt some time, he'll come back with that.
Then he'd been
Because
3
Bob
we
years.
should
Hayes
rank-
made it come back. You know, maybe the old guys are coming back.
Do you
3
think we
years.
should rank
3
the
years.
housekeeping questions in order of which has got the least amount of no evidence?
Nah, order's fine.
Well, it depends on what you're going to call evidence, though, because there isn't any evidence. Evidence is proof. For any of these claims in the housekeeping question, there is no evidence for any of them. None. So if you want to gauge it on what's claimed to be evidence for each one, which has got the least claim to be evidence, then yeah, molten iron core's in dead last, isn't it? Let's face it.
There's no hint of it whatsoever. It really is just like a Jules Verne story, completely made up with no trace. Like volcanoes is. If there were no volcanoes, you would probably not be able to even imagine what it was.
You're
Okay, it's that
assuming
bad.
that, number one, volcanoes are connected to this claim. No, they're not. The Ring of Fire is down to tectonic activity, according to the heliocentric model. Now, I'm not claiming that is or isn't the case, but there's not some pipe from the centre of the Earth up to volcanoes, Arwen. That's not being claimed.
No, but that's not what I meant, though. I'm not saying they are the same. It's just that if there was no lava, if you had never seen lava in your life, just the suggestion that it's all floating on top this ball of liquid iron in this case, you wouldn't even be able to imagine that. That would be so absurd to even hear that. It's really because of volcanoes and because of film footage of streaming lava that you can even just attempt to imagine it, really.
I say you're divining where they've got this story from and saying, well, if it wasn't for the fact they saw lava spewing out the sides of mountains, they wouldn't have come up with the idea that right at the middle we've got a molten iron core, and then from there you get the story of Thea, etc. But they wouldn't have even come up with it if it wasn't volcanoes. That's what you're suggesting.
Right, because then it would be too hard for people to engage in the thought experiment, right? It has to still appeal. It has to take grip, or the spell's not going to work.
Well, it's just
But where would the self-perpetuating come from? Like where would that energy come from continuously? Like,
let's see. They got us arguing. Not that.
Momentum, chocolate.
Nathan Nathan
yeah.
tells a good story. Nathan, tell the story. Come on, about the self-perpetuating molten iron core.
we know. I know where
Great
it
story.
came from. The Thea.
Why is
and
it
all that,
self-perpetuating? Right.
Yeah, but
Now notice where you're all talking. In the begging the question, the Black Swan destroyed everything. There's no R's. There's no R. There's no glow.
Tough now.
glow
I didn't even ask a question. How could I be begging a question?
because you used an axe instead of ask.
don't blame me. He's from
He's
New York.
making fun of my accent. What should I say?
Ask it.
Can't you,
Accent.
you can't
I say
handle
axe.
it. You can't handle your axe.
I also say $5. Why? What
You
do
can't
say?
handle your
Guys.
axe end.
Okay, guys. Sleeping Warrior's been sat off mute. He's trying to explain self-perpetuating bit. Go ahead, Anthony.
I haven't been sat on mute.
Off mute. I heard you trying to get a word in when you were asked about the self-perpetuating bit, and then it descended into this.
No, I'm waiting patiently to move on to gravity.
Yeah, but
Yeah, we can move on.
How can we not explain? Can you? How can I phrase this? Please, can you explain why we ask for an evidence of a self-perpetuating, specifically molten iron core, Anthony?
Well, there are no self-perpetuating systems apparently in the system because that would be a, what did they call it? What's the word they used to describe it? Self-perpetuating. Yeah, there are no self-perpetuating systems. It's a violation of the first law of thermodynamics. Is that the question? Is that the answer that you were looking for?
Sort of. Why would it need to be that state in the first instance in terms of the temperature of the molten iron core versus the effects they claim in terms of magnetic effects? Why would it need to be self-perpetuating in the first instance? Why can't it just produce electromagnetic fields?
I don't know. I'm obviously being led somewhere here, but I'm not seeing it, if I'm honest.
But it's beyond the Curie point. That's where I'm leading you.
Yeah, but even beyond the Curie point, it doesn't cause anything electrical or magnetic. So, yeah, it's just weird. If it were solid, then if it were spinning, yeah, it might actually have, just like with turbines, some kind of electrical effect.
Yeah,
But it's molten, so it can't.
It's got to be spun like a dynamo, right, to induce this effect if it's beyond the Curie point. So therefore, it's got to be doing this by itself, hence self-perpetuating, so that it can still generate a magnetic field beyond the Curie point. It's just another layer of bullshit on top of a just so story that doesn't work for various reasons.
Yeah, it's very convoluted.
Yeah, we've been talking about it for 20 minutes.
I'm feeling that gravity's being discriminated against.
Any scientific evidence of gravity.
We've got 4 minutes left of the live show. Gravity's not even
When the
left.
molten iron core gets more than 30 seconds, it starts to get hate.
Yeah.
It's hilarious, man.
Molten iron core bias. Get out.
Have we got time for the story of Thea before Anthony? No, I'm only joking. Go ahead, Anthony. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
But you know, funny you should ask, Nathan. There you go. My screen is now being presented for the audience. This is Demo Lab. They've disabled comments, so they've made it available for kids. They do it on all of their videos. Just means that you can't respond.
Stop!
I haven't looked at anything.
God, he doesn't listen. No, your screen isn't presented. Shout out to Skeptic936. He says, scientific evidence of what? So you need to present your screen again. There we go.
Is that working?
Yes.
I didn't see the error message pop up. So this is from Demo Lab. Comments are all disabled, and basically this is aimed at newbie ball earthers that come to the topic, and they hear this Cavendish and they want to see what Cavendish is all about. And this makes it look so trivial, so easy to do, so absolutely you've got to be crazy to even think that that mass doesn't attract mass. And you can see it's being set up in a university setup, and you can see that she shuts these two little steel doors down that are blocking the light weights, the little weights inside the thing. She turns on the laser and it bounces off this mirror and it casts onto the wall that's far left. You'll see it in a minute. And then you can see that she starts putting the balls into position. You'll see that the casting of the shadow or the casting of the laser is being bounced onto the back wall in a sec. And basically all she does, and I'll have to just play it to show how beautiful it is. All she does is she moves the weights in, and you can watch this. I think I'm on double speed here. Yeah, double speed. So she moves it in, and look how simple it is, right? So it's beautiful. And then she moves the balls, and then she watches it comes back. And hey, that's it. Gravity. We may as well all go home because mass attracts mass, guys.
No.
What?
Honestly,
it's look.
No, I've not.
Anthony's conclusion was rubbish. It's just another Cavendish demonstration. That's all it is, right? Anthony's just showing Cavendish demonstration.
No, it's not. It goes more than that. It makes it look so easy to be done. I mean, if you go and research Cavendish tests now, you can see that they're doing it in their dormitory bedrooms in university. They're doing it on the train. They're doing it anywhere. Cavendish now is so easy to do that anybody can do it.
I thought
you actually go try and do it.
I thought Cavendish was for the density of the Earth.
The what?
Yeah.
What?
That's supposed to be the experiment. Cavendish is just a toy to delude yourself that mass attracts mass.
Yeah.
Right?
Didn't I call it that before, Riley? They're just playing with a little toy.
Yeah.
Ball in a torture bar. It's like ball.
Indeed. We'll no doubt cover it in the after show, but with that, I'm going to say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, or joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member. Another massive thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. Again, stay tuned if you're watching on either Premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video. fucking name!